for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show live every day, Monday through Friday, starting at noon Pacific time. It is the LIARS edition of the Nikki Medoro Show today. We are going to be talking about everyone from the only Black Republican Senator Tim Scott just lying to people and scaring them that their heat in this frigid winter that people are having, their heat is going to be turned off, but I'll bring you the truth as well. Rupert Murdoch is going to once again have to explain the lies that Fox News doled out about Dominion voting machines. And then did you hear about this story of twins who were accused of cheating in this medical school test? They're twins. Their answers seemed very close, and so they were accused of cheating. The story is pretty insane. Make sure, though, before we get things going, you click the thumbs up button on the YouTube channel that you're watching right now. It's right below the screen. Just click thumbs up. YouTube absolutely loves it, and it really helps support the show. And, of course, go to thenikkimedoroshow.com, click on our Patreon to become a monthly Patreon subscriber. We always appreciate it. But right now, we need to bring in our exclusive founding sponsor, someone who does not lie to you ever, the one, the only, Steve Moskowitz. Steve, when people call you, you're not feeding them a line of bull. You're giving them the straight truth every time, right?
And that's how I built the firm from one little room all by my lonesome to what it is today. And we're still expanding. We're adding all kinds of services to clients. And what we want to do is earn the clients' respect and their business and then their referrals. Now, that's a very simple business principle that's been around for 30 years. Basic golden rule. You treat people the way you want to be treated.
Exactly.
And knock on wood, that's how I've been able to expand all these years. We care about our clients. And 1,000 years ago, when I started the practice and I was a law professor, I would tell the new lawyers, say, look, the law is not some old case that you're reading from England and we have a scholarly discussion in the classroom. You're dealing with people's lives. They feel, they hurt, they cry, they bleed, they laugh, they're happy, they're sad. Mm-hmm. You can affect somebody's life. You really can affect somebody's life and their family's life and their kids' life. It's a big deal. And I understand that when we do any type of case. For example, with us, doing tax and business things, the whole family is probably depending on this business and so many others, their clients or customers or patients. I take that very seriously. Just like if you go to a surgeon and you say, doctor, here's my problem. And that doctor literally holds your physical life in his or her hands. Well, we hold your financial life. And when I started the practice so many years ago, to the best of my ability, I said, I wanted to treat our clients the same way as if I went into a doctor's office and I had some terrible problem and I was really worried about it and I didn't know what was going to happen. And I would want that doctor to understand me, explain things to me in terms that I would understand and take care of me. And to the best of my ability, that's what we try to do with clients.
That is awesome. I mean, I know you were talking about a surgeon right there, Steve, but and I'm sure you've heard terrible stories about people having financial difficulty, and it does affect their health. It does make them feel like they have so many problems that tragedy could actually happen because they feel like their money problems, their debt problems, their tax problems are just too difficult to handle.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I'm not pretending to be a physician because I'm not, but I think it's general knowledge that stress will do horrible things to your health. Mm-hmm. And, stress taken over a long period of time can really, really do bad things to your health if you're in perfect health. Well, what about if you're in normal health? People do have challenges, especially as they get older. Mm-hmm. That's a terrible way to live. And then it adversely affects somebody's marriage and everybody picks up on it.
Yeah.
The spouse picks up on it, the kids, and everybody's miserable. And it doesn't have to be. Sometimes I feel like a doctor. I want to say, oh my God, there's a medicine that would cure what you're suffering from. Here, take the medicine.
There you go. Steve can be your kind of tax doctor, if you will. So give him a call, 888 tax deal, or find him online, MoskowitzLLP.com. That's MoskowitzzLLP.com. Thank you, Steve, so much. Until next
Thanks,
time.
Nikki.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's Steve Moskowitz, 888 tax deal, MoskowitzLLP.com. Now we have Kim McAllister here. I'm not quite sure if we can hear our Miss McAllister. There's the beautiful face. There she is. But no, I don't know what's wrong with your microphone. I can't hear you, my love. So we can see you. It's so funny. Either we hear you and can't see you, or we see you and can't hear you. One of these days we'll have both. So you could just sit there. I don't know if you're unplugged or plugged in or whatever, but she'll figure it out. So she's right there. You can take yourself off screen, on screen. I don't know what the problem is, but we're going to do the show anyway. All right. So it's the Liars edition. Let's start off with Tim Scott. Okay. Now, this is a pretty cruel thing that Tim Scott did. I'm going to show you a picture. And look, I understand that with politics, as with anything, even when I write my teases for this show, I get it. You want to get people interested. You want people to see it and read it and things like this. Look at what Tim Scott, I'm going to bring it up for you really quickly because I forgot to bring it up. Okay, so he sends out an email. We all get tons of emails all of the time. The goal of the email is kind of like the tease to a show. You want people to go into it. And so do you kind of be scandalous? Do you use, certain kind of text? Okay, I get that. I actually respect it a little bit. This I don't. Now imagine, it's freezing effing cold. You've seen all of the headlines about snow and blizzards and blah, blah, blah happening, all right? And then you see this in your email. Peter, for instance, if your name is Peter, your heat will be turned off. Emergency notice. I mean, think about this. Let's say you're 75 years old. Maybe you're not. You just got a bunch of little kids at home. Maybe you're not feeling good, like you have a cold, like I do. And you're just like, I can't lose my heat right now. And then you get this notice. Your heat's going to be turned off. You would be freaking out. Well, so you click in it. And this is what Tim Scott did. President Biden claims gas prices are better now than when he took office. Fact check. False. The truth. Since taking office, gas prices have soared. Biden has crippled our patriotic oil can be patriotic, and gas industry, and every American is paying the price. Many have been forced, in all caps, to turn off the heat in their homes because the prices are simply too high, leaving families without warmth during the winter. All right. Now, could he have led with the first part, or even something as President Biden's moves have forced some families to turn off the heat in their home? I mean, that would at least be a little bit, more honest. This, that seems really freaking cruel, in my opinion. And so Tim Scott's been called out. He's topping our liar in office list that we have going on right now. But do you think it's ever okay to kind of use this clickbaity tool to have politicians doing that? Because on one hand, I get it. I mean, we are in the business of writing leads and headlines and teases that will keep you coming to the show. So on one hand, I get it. On the other hand, there is nothing in this email to make it seem like it has to do with politics, that it's from Tim Scott. Nothing. It just says, your heat will be turned off. Emergency notice. Your heat's not going to be turned off. It's not going to be turned off at all. But Tim Scott did that. And for that, it gets a big thumbs down. Our next liar, who is actually going to be before a jury, I believe it's going to be today. Yeah. So today, 91-year-old Rupert Murdoch will have to be back in court to defend Fox News. So this is all because of Dominion voting systems. We all know the story. They have filed a $1.6 billion defamation suit against Fox News and Fox Corporation, its parent company, after a number of Fox hosts and guests, I'm looking at you, Mike Lindell, promoted false claims that Dominion threw votes from then President Donald Trump to Joe Biden in the 2020 election. Now, attorneys for Dominion had actually privately questioned Lachlan Murdoch. That is Rupert Murdoch's oldest son. And he's also the boss of Fox Corporation. Now, they questioned him under oath for hours last week. Okay. Now, the company is seeking to find proof that Lachlan Murdoch, again, the Fox Corporation boss, knew that the claims of election fraud in the 2020 presidential elections were false, and that he encouraged or just simply allowed them to be broadcast anyway on Fox News. Now, Fox News claims it was, now this is what gets me. Anything can be news if you say it is, right? I mean, I think something's interesting and I slap it in my show and there you go, it's news. Well, Fox News says it was covering an inherently newsworthy claim from inherently newsworthy sources, a sitting president and his campaign attorneys, who were completely full of crap. I mean, think about that. So you have a lying-ass president and his lying-ass cronies saying something, and so all of a sudden, that's deemed news. And so the number one news, 24-hour news channel runs with it, and that you already know is like a total Trump-supporting channel. And so they say the network contends that the lawsuit is an affront to free speech. BS. They knew they were lying because, remember, Fox News called Arizona, and that totally pissed Trump off, and they wouldn't go back on it. They refused to go back on it. And so if they refuse to go back on the fact that Biden won Arizona, and then they knew that it was totally BS with the voting systems. And so we'll see. The last time Rupert Murdoch was before a judge was in 2011. And if you remember, that was the scandal regarding News of the World. It was like this British tabloid, like a Sunday tabloid or something. And it was caught hacking into the voicemails and emails of royals, celebrities, politicians, war veterans. One was a 13-year-old girl who had been murdered. It was just ill. It was the lowest of the low when it comes to what these kind of rags publish. Now, he faced a lot of blowback. Murdoch did. The paper shut down. It was then replaced with the Sunday edition of his Sun tabloid. He split his newspapers from his TV properties, and then he had to abandon his $15 billion bid for total control of the British satellite TV giant Sky. So, I mean, even though he has a ton of money, there's no way in hell he wants to pay this much money to Dominion voting systems. And then the question, of course, is what does this do to have Rupert Murdoch admit or lose a lawsuit to Dominion voting systems and having to admit that they lied and they allowed people to lie on their platforms? I mean, they're already starting to go back on the GOP, going back against the don't vote by mail, don't vote early, vote on the day of the election. And why is that? Because they're seeing that you need to stop with this nonsense that vote by mail isn't safe and that you need to go in there and then that's the only way your vote is going to be counted, because it's not true and it's costing elections. Not saying that that's the only reason why Democrats won, of course. But what I am saying is they don't have the evidence to support it, and you can't urge people to vote in an election that you're also saying is filled with fraud. So which is it? Either the elections are honest and working fine, so people should go vote, or they aren't. And then people won't go vote. At least your side won't, because us Democrats, we know there are safeguards in place. And this is how elections are done. You just have to do it. Moving on to our lies that continue to be spread. Did you see that Elon Musk has decided to dissolve the, what's it called? It's called the Trust and Safety Council. Now, you may remember this whole Trust and Safety Council was created because of all of the misinformation and hate and all kinds of bots and everything that were running rampant on Twitter. They're saying that other countries were coming together, civil rights leaders, academics, advocates all around the world came together and volunteered their time for years to improve the safety on Twitter. And in less than 2 months of Elon Musk owning Twitter, he's now dissolved it. The Trust and Safety Council, according to the Washington Post, unraveled after Musk himself had pitched the creation of a content moderation council that would have weighed in on key content moderation decisions, but later appeared to change his mind about introducing such a body. And the people that were involved with the Trust and Safety Council, apparently they were already going to quit. They were done. I can't imagine my job being this and then just having it undermined over and over again by this guy that just swooped in and spent $44 billion. One person said, who was this? Larry Magid. He was the chief executive of Connect Safely, which is a nonprofit that advises consumers on children's internet use. He said, by disbanding it, we got fired instead of quit. Elon does not want criticism, and he really doesn't want the kind of advice he would very likely get from a safety advisory council, which would likely tell him to rehire some of the staff he got rid of. And if there's anything I think that Elon Musk doesn't want to do is admit that he was wrong. And they would also have to reinstate some of the rules he got rid of and turn the company in another direction from where he's turning it. Last week, 3 members of the Trust and Safety Council resigned, warning that the safety and well-being of Twitter's users are on the decline. And then Musk responded to their replies to their tweet announcing their resignation, quote, "It's a crime that they refuse to take action on child exploitation for years." That claim was even called out by Jack Dorsey himself. He called it false. But again, Musk just doubled down, which apparently men of his ilk basically do. God forbid he admits that he's wrong, that maybe he moved too quickly, that maybe his stupid tweet about buying Twitter was hasty and he was just joking. I mean, all of those things could possibly be true, but it would also require a level of acceptance and maturity that I just don't think Elon Musk has. I don't know what I would want Twitter to look like. And I honestly, when I think about it, I don't know why I stay on it. I'm trying to bring it up as I'm talking right now. I mean, I don't get the engagement that I used to like on it. I really don't. There are people that always would comment on my posts that I don't even see anymore. And the only thing I can think of is because I won't pay for that verification or the blue check or the official or whatever the hell they're calling it that he's reinstating soon. Oh God. And then did you see this? So Elon Musk had tweeted something out about his pronouns and it was so funny and I'm trying to find it. I think it was my pronouns are prosecute Fauci. And I think that Jimmy Kimmel was like, your pronouns are ass and hole. I can't hear you, Kim McAllister. I'm so bummed. I don't know what happened. I feel like it's an easy button that can, you're sure you're not? I know. If anybody, that silence that you hear is Kim McAllister. She's talking at me, but looking gorgeous. But yeah, I can't hear you, my friend. And I'm hoping it's not on my side. But I keep checking my computer. I heard Steve Moskowitz, but I couldn't hear you. So keep trying and just start talking and maybe one day I'll hear you. But yeah, so Jimmy Kimmel was not having it. And I think that Elon Musk is just a troll. He's smart. I know a lot of you, whenever I talk about Elon Musk, you're like, the guy's rich and he did SpaceX and he has the Tesla's very popular. I'm not knocking the guy's successes. I'm just saying that he's not Midas. It's not as if everything he friggin' touches is going to turn to gold. And maybe he touched Twitter and broke it, right? I mean, maybe he's just not right. And I think that's the hardest thing for people to come to terms with is someone as brilliant as Elon Musk, who was able to do SpaceX, the reusable, rocket booster, whatever thing, that's genius. The math and the people that he has working on that's awesome. Being able to fly something out into outer space and then have it land on a square perfectly, it seems like a miracle. It seems like magic. It's math, of course, but I mean, I'm not knocking the guy for all of that. I'm not knocking him for the Tesla. I'm not knocking him for, connecting the internet over Ukraine. There are amazing things that Elon Musk has done. That does not absolve him from all the crappy stuff he's done as well. I mean, he is a troll. He is trolling people. He could use his platform in a better way, but he chooses not to, which is his right. It is totally his right to do. But all of this, oh my God, why do people hate on Elon Musk? No, we're just calling out people in power. And if there's anyone in power, it is like the richest man in the world, right? Or one of. I don't know. It always seems to fluctuate depending on whether or not he took a dump that day. I have no idea. But I'm just saying, if we can't call out Elon Musk, who can we call out, right? I mean, he's not God or anything. And not everything that he does is perfect. Now, speaking of people who are accused of lying, did you hear about identical twins, Kayla and Kelly Bingham? Okay, so they took a medical school exam back in 2016, and they were accused of cheating on it. Okay, so here's the story. They're 24 years old, and sorry, I still have a cold. They're 24 years old, and they were in their second year of studies at Medical University of Southern California. They took the test. Now, Kelly told Insider they were given assigned seats about 4 or 5 feet apart. So, I mean, not that far apart. But still, they say they could not see each other for the exam. There was a faculty member who was remotely monitoring the test taking and apparently noticed that the twins were progressing similarly through their examinations and had many of the same incorrect answers. They claimed that the proctor, the person that's there, had been told to keep an eye on them and took notes on their behavior during the test, which to me doesn't seem fair. So what you're saying is you're just scoping out these twins. What if anybody else is cheating? Seems like BS, but whatever. Okay, so was taking notes on their behavior, and the proctor noticed how they nodded their heads during the examination and occasionally pushed back from their computers, looked around the classroom, or shuffled scratch paper, which to me sounds like people taking a test, right? I mean, you occasionally push away from your computer, you look around. I mean, you're taking a long-ass test. What do you want people to say? 2 weeks after the exam, faculty members accused these identical twins of cheating. A letter sent to the president of the College of Medicine's Honor Council stated that cheating had occurred, and the plaintiffs were signaling one another and passing notes. Kayla, one of the twins, said there was no signaling. They were just nodding at a question or at their computer screens, which is what people do. Now, they were initially found guilty by the school's honor council, which that's saying something. Just nodding and shuffling papers, which are common things to do, but okay. On appeal of the decision, it was reversed. And Kelly, one of the twins, said they thought it had gone away, but people would gossip about us and we'd get a cold reception. Court documents allege that the findings of the Honor Council were leaked to the student body, and due to the ensuing hostility, the twins left medical school and went on to abandon their plans for careers in medicine altogether. I mean, imagine that. I mean, you're accused of cheating. The decision's reversed, but it's just like bad headlines. Everyone remembers the accusation. No one ever remembers the retraction. Kelly said, "It honestly killed me. I dreamed about being a doctor since I was little. Kayla and I wanted to help people." And then after withdrawing from the school in September of 2016, the twins filed a lawsuit. I hear something.
Can you hear me?
I hear you. Did you do something?
I just randomly pushed a button and it worked. So I don't know what I did.
Okay. So were you listening to my story?
I was. It's crazy.
Yes.
But you wonder, okay, so if they really did cheat, then how long have they been pulling this little wink, wink, nudge, nudge thing?
Why?
But if they didn't, that sucks. You know?
And the thing is shuffling papers, pushing back from your computer. Those are things I do during this show every single day. I mean, It seems like they're acting like human beings. And I think it's unfair that this proctor was specifically told to look at these twins. If you thought that something was going on, some sort of cheating, so much so that you told the proctor to look at them after them, then why wouldn't you separate them more? Why wouldn't you tell them to take tests different days
Well,
or
why
something like
why
that?
was the proctor told to zero in on these two? Do they have a history of
Well,
shenanigans? I mean,
nothing that I've read is a history of shenanigans. It's only that they're identical twins. And
mm,
so, well, anyways, basically, they were accused of cheating, and last month they won a defamation case against their school. They were
yeah.
awarded $1.5 million in damages, which I think they're completely due. I would say even more than that if you think about the fact that they gave up on medical school. Now, these aren't dumb women. They decided to go to law school instead, which I think after winning this case, I can
Mm-hmm.
totally understand. But apparently, Nancy Siegel, who founded the Twin Studies Center at California State University, Fullerton, said Kelly and Kayla were subject to a complete lack of understanding of the impact of their corresponding genetic profiles. Scientific research shows identical twins have similarities that go far beyond their shared appearance.
Right.
They have similar cognitive processes and response times, as well as typically being raised in the same environment. Having same test scores is a common occurrence among identical twins. Not to mention, guess who probably studied together?
Yeah.
So if you study together and you're studying the same stuff and you're testing each other, I don't think it's too far of a stretch to think that you might get the same questions wrong if you're studying it wrong or you didn't study something enough. I mean, if you're both studying the same thing, to me that makes sense. I feel like they were in like these people, this school was out for them a little bit. They were looking for cheating, and so whatever they saw made it seem like they were cheating. And I'm glad that they won their defamation lawsuit. I think it was unfair of them to have to go through something like that. I can't. And again, that test can't be easy. So I'd be pissed that I had to take the damn thing. And
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, no, do not make me take that test over again. I'll just go to law school. I'll just become a lawyer, as if that's any easier. You know what I'm saying? No, thank you. No, thank you whatsoever. Okay, so we have a lot coming up after on the second part of this show. Again, this is pre-recorded, and I appreciate everyone still tuning in. I am currently at the doctor with my daughter having her second infusion, and then tomorrow I'll give you an update. She has given me permission to share, just a little bit of the journey that she is going through. I do want to say thank you to everybody tuning in. Please click that thumbs up button. It still helps us out, even if you listen to this as a replay, after when we're not even live. I know some of you donate to the show, even though it's not live when you're watching or listening to this on the podcast. You could do that with the super chat feature, which still works, even if it's not live. It's the $ right under the live chat that's going on right now. And then many of you, so many of you, and I appreciate it, have become monthly subscribers to our Patreon. So if you'd like to join the cool club, just go to thenikkimedoroshow.com. Our Patreon link is right there, as well as links to the show, to all of our YouTube channels. So you can share it with your friends and family. And please share and make sure you are subscribed to the show. Even if you don't watch it every day, if you're subscribed, it helps us out. So, someone's like, I don't really watch YouTube. Okay. You can still log on and subscribe. It does us a solid. You know what I'm saying? So if you can, become a monthly Patreon subscriber. It is the best way. And I will be, so by the time you're watching this, my video will already be up. So if you're a Patreon subscriber, you will be able to view the sneak peek at all the merchandise that I have for sale coming up. And then I think in a few days, maybe on Friday, we'll share it with everybody else. Maybe Thursday or Friday, because I want to give our Patreon people a day or two to kind of get first dibs, because there's not a ton of stuff. It's going to be limited edition because I'm paying for it.
Is there a Nikki Medoro webcam that gives you that gorgeous olive skin
Oh, no, I
instead
was
of the
born with
pasty
that, baby.
whiteness of what we have here? There's no magic.
There's a
No?
ring light. I mean, it looks like daytime, even though when we're recording this, Kim, it's pitch dark outside. You got to get yourself a ring light, lovey. I have one. I don't want to. I would turn my camera around, but then you would see the mess that is this room that I broadcast from. But it's I have a ring light, and instead of the white, it has a reddish color on it. So it kind of gives this warm kind of glow.
Okay.
So if you're looking for a ring light, get one that maybe has the warm glow filter on it, and then
Yeah.
you too can look olive like me. Also, my skin's olive, so that kind of helps. You know what I'm saying.
I don't have
You
that
know.
going for me.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so do you have news?
I do.
Okay, perfect.
You want
So,
news? You want it? I got it.
We'll do some news in just a moment, and then we'll come back, and I have some lighter stuff to get to. Oh my God. I mean, there's some Hollywood news, some kind of sad, tragic celebrity news, some Golden Globe news. There's a reason why people love living in California news. That is all coming up. Again, please click that thumbs up button. It really helps us out. We really appreciate it. And we'll be right back after Kim's news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried in custody after being arrested in the Bahamas. Yes, in a statement, the country's attorney general said the United States had filed unspecified criminal charges against the former crypto billionaire and was likely to request his extradition. Bankman-Fried now being investigated for his role following FTX's sudden collapse last month. Securing the release of former Marine Paul Whelan from a Russian prison, it's a top priority for the White House. That's according to National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, who says the U.S. officials are working now to come up with a deal with Russia to free Whelan, who's been detained in that country since 2018. The armed man at a Washington state courthouse is now in custody. That courthouse placed on lockdown for several hours yesterday afternoon. Snohomish County Sheriff's deputies responding to the government campus for a report of an armed and barricaded man in the lobby at about noon. Again, that was on Monday. The three-headed monster, as they're calling it, it's the flu, RSV, and COVID. It's hitting the U.S. hard. While RSV rates are coming down, influenza and COVID rates are continuing to rise. Now at least 47 states are experiencing high or very high respiratory virus activity. The University of Texas is suspending men's basketball coach Chris Beard without pay after he was arrested on a felony domestic violence charge. He was taken into custody Monday morning, released on bond later on. Police say a woman accused Beard of choking her at a home. A Superfund site in Southern California getting closer to being a new source of water for Los Angeles. A Superfund site. Well, LA Times reporting it's located in the San Fernando Valley. It's been unused for decades. That's because water at the site contained harmful toxins due to the number of companies ranging from automotive to aerospace disposing things like metals and waste in the area. Now a $600 million plan is getting closer to completion. It includes the construction of a number of treatment facilities in the area. A once finished almost 87,000 acre feet of water is expected to benefit Los Angeles annually. Sure hope they test it very, very well. The impasse between the University of California system and workers that are technically United Auto Workers union members, but they are mostly the faculty continues. The two parties have agreed to bring in now Sacramento Mayor and former State Senate Pro Tem Darrell Steinberg as a mediator in ongoing negotiations. The two sides at odds over a fair and reasonable contract for the university's grad student researchers and academic student employees. In a statement, Steinberg says he hopes both parties will enter this mediation with an open mind, a spirit of goodwill, and a focus on compromise. We'll see how that goes. Joe Exotic is, this is kind of an interesting one. He's calling on President Biden to free him from prison following Brittany Griner's release from Russian custody.
Stop
You see this?
it.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. TMZ obtained audio of the Tiger King star criticizing the government for freeing a dangerous man in the prisoner swap between the WNBA player and Russian arms dealer Victor Bout. He called it a slap in every American's face that's wrongfully detained, including himself. Joe is serving 21 years for alleged crimes against animals and hiring two men to kill his longtime rival, Carol Baskin.
Bit different story. Yeah, exactly. Shut up, idiot. Jesus.
This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, you can call Steve at 888-TAX-DEAL, or you can reach him online at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
I haven't filed a tax return in years. What should I do?
Not filing a tax return for years isn't a surprisingly common problem. And the number one reason people don't file is just because they didn't have the money in year one, And then year 2 runs around, and then they say, well, how can I file year 2 if they didn't file year 1 and they still don't have the money? And then it becomes a lifestyle, a criminal-like lifestyle. The other reason is somebody depended on somebody, a spouse, a business partner, they're gone, they don't know what to do. The bottom line is we can get all of the records that the IRS and the state has on you. We'll file all the returns that you need to file, no matter how many years it is. And then if you're the typical person and you just don't have the money to pay the taxes, that's okay. There's all kinds of good options for you. In almost all cases, we do everything for you. You don't have to talk to the government, deal with them, have anything to do with them. And don't stick your head in the sand, because the IRS is hiring 87,000 new IRS agents, and you don't want them knocking on your door.
This is not legal advice, and you should consult with your tax attorney or professional.
All right, welcome back to the second part of the Nikki Medoro Show live on YouTube. I am here. Kim McAllister's beautiful face is also on your screen. Yes, this is the inaugural show of Kim's face live on.
Everyone's like, can you have her put the picture back up, please? Because
shut up.
nobody wants. She looks like a giant white blob. Yes, I know.
I love it. I love seeing your face. Okay, so there was some news that came out Monday night regarding something that happened in my neck of the woods. Now, I don't believe that you were on with me on Station X when the VTA mass shooting happened. Now, if anyone doesn't remember this, I could see, because of where I live, the plume of smoke that the gunman caused when he set his house on fire. So you may remember that the gunman at the VTA mass shooting had lit his house on fire and then left and then committed this mass shooting. Well, I could see the plume of smoke. We didn't know at the time that these two incidents were connected. We knew that there was a mass shooting happening at the VTA yards or some sort of, armed gunman. And then there was this fire that was happening. And then all of a sudden, they're cordoning off the neighborhood and this is just a fire, like it's a house fire. What's the big deal? So fast forward, we figured out that this guy had obviously set the fire to his home and then had gone and shot up his place of business, which is at the VTA rail yards, where several people died. Well, they just released the results of their independent investigation. Now, this was the shooting on May 26th. 10 people died. They researched and did interviews with 47 witnesses. And an independent investigator has concluded that the VTA had no prior knowledge or warning that the employee was planning a mass shooting. Sam Cassidy was his name. He again set fire to his home before going to the rail yard. He then died by suicide after law enforcement arrived on the scene. And we talked a lot about this, about red flag laws and did conversations and emails. Should this have been some sort of tip to the employer? Now, one person, and I want to get the name right, Jim Lawson, who is the VTA Chief of External Affairs, said a question you probably has is there were multiple examples of workplace misconduct. None of the 5 incidents, individually or taken together, were sufficient to terminate or warrant serious discipline in those cases. There were those instances and people who reported about this individual was unpleasant or unfriendly, and they may have felt threatened by them or talked about their feelings. And he did not issue any threats. He did not say, I'm going to do something to somebody, either in writing or verbally. Because of that, it's difficult to do something about it.
Wasn't there some type of information from coworkers that said he was volatile and that there had been complaints about him?
Yeah. So there's misconduct, right? And that's what he's saying. He's like, yes, but together, it's not as if they could have foreseen what happened on that day. Nobody, even if there's we all know somebody, whether in our personal life or professional life, that just goes off the handle. You're like, chill, dude.
Right. Quick to anger.
But alone, or even intimate, like even if you put those incidents together, is it on May 26th, this guy gonna walk in with a gun and kill 10 people? I mean, I think that it's a leap, and it's that leap that is so difficult and why it's so hard to prevent these things or see these things from happening. And that is why. Yeah. And that is why it cannot be as easy for people to get weapons and or keep them if they do seem to fly off the handle. If you own a gun, people should know that you own a gun. I'm sorry. I don't see any problem. If you're a responsible gun owner and you're not going to, shoot up your workplace, why do you care if people know that you have a gun?
Well, because I mean, I'll just play the devil's advocate here
Yeah.
because I agree with you. But a lot of people will say, well, the reason that gun ownership is a deterrent, or the legality of gun ownership is a deterrent, is because you never know who has one, right? So
Mm.
how do I know if I'm going to break into this house if it's somebody that's armed or
I
not?
always assume everybody's armed. With as many guns as there are in this friggin' country, I would just assume there's a
Well,
gun behind every
if you
door.
have the list of the houses that have the guns, what's to say you wouldn't just break into the ones that
That
without them?
don't. Oh, I see what you're saying. I mean, yeah. And then, of course, you could be a target of people that want to steal weapons, right? I
Yeah.
know that this person has guns.
Yeah.
I get that part, but I don't think there's any problem. Do you think there's a problem with your employer knowing if you have a weapon at home?
Mm,
I mean, he might think twice, or she might think twice about being like, "I'll fly off the handle. You're fired." If maybe you bring a
it's
psychologist in.
it's like saying it's like saying there's something wrong with you before you've ever done anything wrong. So, and it's invading your privacy before you've ever taken a step to cause someone to be worried about you. I would rather, if someone thinks someone is a loose cannon, for them to say, "Hey, police, I know we have these red flag laws, and I don't know if so and so, I don't know if Nikki's got a gun, but let me tell you,
Right.
she's acting kind of crazy. So can someone check and make sure she doesn't?" That's all.
I
Like,
just
what's wrong with that?
because I feel like it's hard for people to do that. I feel like, so for instance, it's easy for me to report water wasters, right? I did it just the other day. There was water flowing from the park and I hopped on my phone. I sent an email. I
You're like,
called.
gotcha.
I'm like, done. No hesitation. Calling somebody that I work with or that I know or something like that, while I personally don't think that I would have a problem doing that, I think
Yeah.
some people would. I think they'd be worried, what if this person finds out that I'm the one that called in? Oh my God, what if, they didn't do anything bad? Am I going to get, him or her in trouble? So it's these questions that give people pause. I don't care about, narking out the school water waster, but I might have a little bit of
See,
hesitation about a person with a
I
family
just
and a job.
think if there's any question, you call. It doesn't mean the person's going to lose their job. It doesn't mean anything other than we're going to make sure that you don't have a gun for 14 days while we make sure whether you're okay to have a gun. That's
But,
all.
but don't you think that if I was
And the
Mrs.
chances
Boss,
are, if you're thinking about calling,
they've done something, right?
or they're acting kind of
Weird.
yeah.
Yeah, but okay,
Mhm.
so let's say I'm going to fire you. Okay, let's
That was
say
my noise for crazy, by the way. Lulu.
It's really PC, Kim. That's great. Okay, so I'm the boss. I'm about to fire you. Okay, so now I look at your checklist, and
That's
I
happened
go,
recently.
let's look. Let's Kim. Her performance has been. She's gotten
Hey!
into number. I'm just saying. I'm using you as an example. And well, she's gotten into fights with X, Y, and Z person. So she
Mhm.
so she has a little bit of issues. Oh, and I see here she also has 2 guns at home. Like, so this is it. This is in a world in which the employer knows. So maybe I bring you in and I go,
Pardon me.
look,
Mhm.
here's a psychologist. Let's follow up. I'm going to notify your family and friends. Like, there's going to be a support system in place. Like, these life events happen. And if I
Right.
know that you're armed, maybe I could set up some sort of human infrastructure that can help you so you don't fly off the rails, come back and shoot up the building. Does that make sense?
You know what? On a personal level, I'm willing to say yes to anything that helps.
Right. Of
We are at
course.
the point
Right.
of crazy times
Yeah.
with school shootings. I was talking to my son Jacob, 8 years old. We're in the
Mhm.
car on the way home. He says, "Hey, we had an unannounced fire drill today." I said,
Uh-oh.
"Oh, well, that was
Okay.
exciting. You got to line up and go outside and everything." He goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Hey, mom, you know the difference between, what did he call it? A high level lockdown and a medium level lockdown and a low level lockdown?" And then he
No.
he proceeds to describe each category of lockdown. High level lockdown, mom, that's when there's a bad guy at school. That's when you got to hide.
Oh, that sucks.
Medium lockdown, and I mean, at this point, I'm tearing up, right?
Right. I could totally
Medium
imagine.
lockdown, that's when you just got to lock the door and sit down and be quiet. Low level lockdown, you just got to lock the door. I'm like, I don't know where to go with this. Like, so clearly, if we're teaching every school child what the methodology of lockdown,
Yep.
levels are, then we've got a big problem. So,
Yes.
I mean, on one hand, I have a hard time giving up privacy for safety. And that's really what it's always been about, right? Even after
Right.
9/11, it's like, okay, you've got to balance juggling rights in one hand versus safety in the other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the right answer, but what I can tell you is we're doing something wrong. And so I'm willing to throw everything that can possibly make a difference at the wall to stick to see what can change the way that America has become. What can
Yeah.
change? What can help us? Because if we have to teach kids that, then we're on the wrong path.
Well, they were failing somewhere, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it seems like, but then I always have this, and I know it's not a fair thing to equate, right? But maybe it's because it's so localized with school shootings versus nuclear war. But I mean, we've seen pictures from back in the day of children preparing for
Yeah.
nuclear fallout, right? I
Tell me,
mean,
I in school in the 80s, and
yeah,
they said if the air raids go off, if the nukes come, hide under your desk, as if
as
that would
if,
ever have
exactly.
done
Just so
anything.
you don't see it happen, basically.
I
But
don't
think
know,
about
but
that.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think parents back then said? Our world is going to hell in a handbasket,
Mhm.
that we're teaching our children that a desk is going to prevent them from a
Yeah,
nuclear bomb, when
yeah.
we all know that's BS, but it's something to make them feel like they have some control over the situation. I mean, there is a difference, though, and I think it is that as a country, we don't seem to be doing what, in my opinion, is the most obvious thing, which
Mhm.
is making guns less accessible to
Right.
everyone. Not everybody should own a gun. They just shouldn't. I mean,
No,
you could
you're
call it a
right.
constitutional right all
Yeah,
you want to, but just because you have the right doesn't mean you should be given the right, because you
that's
might
right.
not be in your right mind. So, yeah, I don't know, but I'm glad on one hand that this report came out that this doesn't boil into like VTA knew and they didn't do anything about it on one hand. On the
Mhm.
other hand, it's very upsetting that there were all these signs that this guy
Mm.
wasn't right, but it wasn't enough to actually prevent it from happening. Because if all of these things were true, that this guy was threatening his coworkers, was very volatile, all this stuff, and it still didn't bring somebody to report him, to make sure, go check on this
Mm.
guy, to get the guns or what have you, I don't know what's going to take. I don't know what it's going to take for people to make that step. But I'm not saying it's an easy leap, but we have to be emboldened, just like I am with water
Yeah.
wasters. It has
Well,
to be that easy.
don't forget that on the heels of that VTA shooting, there was another potential
Yes,
shooting, right?
exactly.
A red flag law
And it
was
worked.
used and it worked.
And it
And the
worked.
Santa Clara County Authority said, listen, if we hadn't have received this phone call, we could be looking at a second tragedy here.
Hmm.
So, and after talking to Garen Wintemute with UC Davis Gun Research, we know that these red flag laws work. Are
Hmm.
there questions about privacy? Are there questions about, other issues? Yes,
Of
but
course.
I'm gonna put human life ahead of that right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to.
Well, you
And
have
so
to.
we know that it works. So I don't understand why anybody would not pick up the phone. I would not hesitate.
I would not hesitate
Even
either.
if the person was gonna hate me for the rest of my life, even if it was my own child, because I can tell you right now, I
Hmm.
would rather have my child angry at me and getting psychiatric help and having their weapons taken away than being the mom on the news saying, "Hey, how do you feel after your
Right.
kid shot up all those people?"
And you don't
Right?
get any sympathy. Nobody
Yeah.
gives sympathy to the parents who didn't see it
No.
coming. That were just as in the dark as other people that knew that
Yeah.
person. The parents are always blamed. And I think there is always this question of, how did you not even know that your child was capable of this? There's no sympathy for these people. And again, it's another casualty of
Mhm.
crimes like this. And it's sad. It really, really is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess we could keep it in the sad tip. I'm just
Oh,
mentioning this
that's great.
story.
How uplifting.
Okay, and I'm only bringing this up because, and I'm only bringing it up right now because we're still kind of like on the way down. We'll go up. We'll go up at the end. Don't
We'll
worry
bring
about
it
it.
up. We'll end on a high note. Okay.
So famous last words. That saying. It's like, oh, famous last words. Did you hear
Right.
this famous last word story? And I'm not laughing because the guy died, and it's really freaking sad. But I will say, I
Is
mean,
this a Darwin Award story?
it's not Darwin,
Okay.
because he didn't really do anything except just stand there. and get hit by lightning. Okay, so getting hit by lightning is obviously very, very rare. What's
But
even more
but
rare.
more common than winning the Mega Millions. I will
Well,
say
yes,
that.
that's true. But imagine not only being killed because you were struck by lightning, which is extremely rare, but then calling it. Okay, so I never watched this show One Tree Hill. Did you ever watch this show One Tree Hill?
No, but it was on like the WB, right? It was kind
Something
of a
like that.
teen show. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So Bevan Prince, she is an actress. She was married to this guy, William Friend or Friend. It's spelled like friend, so I'm just going to say friend.
Okay.
Here they are. Very cute couple. Okay, she's on the right, he's on the left. So apparently he died. He was struck by lightning. And she's finally, she gave an interview to Good Morning America talking about the moments right before it happened. Now, just listen to this story, and it's insane.
Right before it hit him, he lit a cigar, and he looked at my father, and he said, if we get struck by lightning, Mike, this is where I want to be. And then it happened, and it was instant.
Are you kidding me?
Now, my heart goes out to her. He's young. They had only been married a few years, so this is really tragic. But can you imagine? I mean, and I know the Darwin Award went, like hold my beer, and then you do something stupid, right?
Well,
but
was there lightning and thunder outside? Like, was it?
So they
was
were
it that
on a
kind of
boat. I'm trying to find more details of it. So yeah, they were on a boat, and she said just what he said. It was July 3rd. He was 33 years old. It was July 3rd, and she believes the exact time the lightning struck was 3:13 p.m. I mean,
that's a lot of threes.
It's a lot of threes. She added that there was a divinity to the timing of his passing because of all of those threes.
I think she's going a little crazy now. Now you're going overboard.
Can you imagine though? I can't imagine.
But she thinks that she believes that it happened like for some type of godly reason.
Well, no, just like I don't know. He called it. There's all these threes, the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. And whatever you have to tell yourself to comfort yourself, I would say. But God, my heart goes out to her. But just imagine that. Like, if I get struck by lightning, and then it's like God's like, okay. I not saying that that's what happened.
If
but
you
it's
insist.
it's just awful. It's awful.
Well,
awful.
okay, so I guess here's my vision. I'm envisioning them on a boat. The weather turns. In the distance, you can see some lightning strikes. So you turn, you light your cigar, and go, hey, if we get struck by lightning, but really lightning zapping all around you. So it's not that big of a stretch.
Yeah.
Versus the kind of the way she told the story, which is, he just happens to be standing there, no lightning and strike, and all of a sudden, whammo.
There had to have been lightning for him to be looking at her stepfather and saying, Mike, if I get struck by lightning.
Right.
It's crazy. That's out of
wild.
A movie. That is out of a movie. All right, we have about 7 minutes left of the show. Thank you all for still tuning in.
I'm sorry for laughing at someone's death, but
and that's what I don't. Yeah. But it blew my mind. It's one of those stories where yes, it's sad, but it's also it blows my mind how it happened. Like, okay, you know what I started watching, and I've been teasing it, but I finally started watching it. I started watching that Harry and Meghan thing on Netflix.
Okay. Yeah, you've been trying to talk to me about this for 2 days. Tell me what you thought.
So are you having any, do you plan on watching it at all?
I do, but that's okay. I don't need surprise.
It's not really, okay, so I've only watched it's a series, and I haven't finished the series. So I watched the first episode, and it kind of talks about them falling in love. And one of the things that Meghan always got criticized about is people like, she said that she never Googled him. And I was like, my ass, you didn't Google, you didn't know who Harry was or whatever. They showed this clip where she was being interviewed. It was like a junior journalist kind of interview, like someone young was interviewing her. And one of the questions, and this was a year before she met Harry, Prince Harry, was Harry or William? And she's like, I don't even, like, she had no, and then she just threw out Harry, right? And so I was like, oh, that means something, right? And so she responded to people saying that she didn't Google him. She's like, I didn't, but I looked on his Instagram, which I think is the same thing. But she was saying Instagram tells you about a person versus Google just tells you what the news wants you to know about that person. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, because
So
your Instagram posts are your own, right?
what you're choosing to put out there about yourself.
Right,
And of
right.
course, Prince Harry's was all about all the adventures, being to Africa and safaris and his work
Yeah.
with animals and
The
like
Invictus
yeah,
races and
he's
what a
not gonna put
competition. Yeah.
like butt shots on it. You know what I
No.
mean? Like it's Prince Harry that we're
Not
talking
gonna
about
put
here.
that dreaded Halloween costume that time I dressed up as a Nazi.
Exactly. So I want
Whoops.
to play you. I have this sound, and then I'm just going to show you some pictures
Mhm.
over it because, obviously YouTube. So this is the sound of the trailer. And I will say they are making a pretty good argument, at least in the first episode, that it's not their fault that they left. It's the media's. So here's a little bit of the trailer of Harry and Meghan.
It's really hard to look back on it now and go, what on earth happened?
You hear that? That is the sound of hearts breaking all around the world.
She's becoming a royal rock star.
And then everything changed. There's a hierarchy of the family. There's leaking, but there's also planting of stories.
There was a war against Meghan to suit other people's agendas.
It's about hatred. It's about race.
It's a dirty game. The pain and suffering of women marrying into this institution, this feeding frenzy.
I realized they're never going to protect you.
I was terrified. I didn't want history to repeat itself. No one knows the full truth. We know the full truth.
Dun dun dun. I don't know. I haven't watched all of it again, but I'm very interested because
they're-
it's so
they're-
sad
But
about what happened. To
they're
Princess
not
Diana.
behind this, right?
No, they worked with this is their thing. They're doing this. They had to do
Okay.
video diaries. They
Right.
started doing all of this,
That's
but it
very
was filmed
public for them.
before. It was filmed
Mhm.
before the Queen died. So all of this was done before the Queen died. So keep that in mind when you're watching it. I will say, I'm quite intrigued. There's something to be said. It starts with him being third in line when he was born, but then obviously as William and Kate have children, he gets pushed further and further down.
And I'm sure with every child, he's like, that poor sucker, but thank God for me.
Thank God. And
Mhm.
honestly, as you realize that you're never, this is just me as an American, totally not part of it, because I know that when you're not American, when you're British, you view it completely differently. But
Yeah.
for me, it's like, why the hell am I putting up with all this BS and I ain't even going to be king? Like, no. Peace. I'm out, right? I'm going to go with my wife and my kids, and you're not protecting me anyway, and you're feeding me to the media wolves, and I'm not going to let you do to us what you did to my mom. And that was that was what the first episode was about, which is tragic. It's so sad.
But I think when you're raised in that family, duty is pressed into you. So, duty, country over and over and over again. And it is extraordinarily hard to walk away from that.
Yeah.
Also, as a member of the royal family, you're never going to want for anything, and I guess the question is it worth trading a life of, making your own money and making your own fortune for, get kind of protecting your family and keeping yourself safe? Because that's really what they did, right? He walked away from all that money, from all that power, because he needed to keep his wife and children safe, and they didn't feel it was happening. And I think anybody who looks at all of it, who looks at all the compared to what they said about Kate versus
Meghan,
and go down the list, and like how the horrible things they said about her for the same thing, even when the Queen was dying. Kate had to take her kids to school, but that Meghan,
I know.
whatever. So
it's so unfair.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, it
I'm
was.
just saying I'm going to watch it. I want you to watch it because I know that you follow the crown. Okay, so this was our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will be back live tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'll be speaking with Cal Matters' Emily Hoven. California is actually being represented at COP15. Before the United Nations, dealing with environmental issues. So California is going to be front and center. I'll check in with her. She's been talking with some of the people at COP15. So that's coming up tomorrow. Also, if your employer knows that your life is at risk because you have a long commute, should they allow you to sleep at work? Well, the Santa Clara VTA is saying, I know we said yes before, but not anymore. So we'll talk about that as well. Again, click the thumbs up, donate to our Patreon if you can. The link is at thenikkimedoroshow.com. We love you, Kim McAllister. Good luck tomorrow on Mark Thompson's. I'll be there. I'll be there tomorrow. Mark Thompson starts at 10 o'clock, and then just scoot on over to watch this show as well. And we'll talk tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.